Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everyone to Friday and to my broom cupboard. At least I've got a coat if it gets a little bit chilly. As usual, if you are there, please do type hello in the comments so that I can be polite and say hello back. I am back today. Apologies for not being here last week. I got hit by the dreaded lurgy. Not the dreaded lurgy, just a dreaded lurgy. So do pop a hello for me. There we go. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Jane. I am a heap load better, thank you. My voice is still a bit iffy. I am still coughing and sneezing a bit, but I am feeling a whole lot better, thank you. Good morning, Karen. Welcome everyone to Friday. Wow, nearly at the end of October. Nearly Samhain. Who's got their decorations up? Come on. Who's got their decorations up? Are your houses filled with cobwebs and skulls and the like? Not that they're not normally, anyway. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Beck. Pete is in the room behind me working hard, and Eric is fast asleep on the bed under a huge pile of blankets. You can't actually see him. He is just a pile of blankets. Jane says, I'm very pixelated. I feel a bit pixelated. I do feel a bit pixelated. The lighting is rubbish in this room, but the internet connection should be okay. Fingers crossed it holds. Good morning, Caroline. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Margaret. Jackie's putting her decorations up this weekend. It is that time of the year, isn't it? Definitely that time of the year. Our decorations in our house are dust and bricks. The house is, we are living in the middle of a building site at the moment. Hence me coming to you from basically a cupboard. Good morning, Xenia. How are me? Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm getting there. It's probably the best. Been hit by that coldy, fluey thing that everyone had. Karen has some decorations up, but not all. Jane says there's a bit of buffering. Ooh, not sure we like a bit of buffering. Apologies. I don't know whether the building works are affecting our internet connection. Actually, it may well be. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Rhiannon. Good morning, Emma. Oh, Emma says I'm pixelated too. That's not good, is it? I am connected to the Ethernet. I don't know what else to do, unfortunately. You might have to put up with me being pixelated. Let me get myself up on the screen. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Excuse me, coughing. There may be quite a bit of that today. No, my phone's not going to work either. Senia says, I hope you don't feel buffered. I do, actually. I do feel quite buffered. Good morning, Vanessa. Let's get some of these on the screen. There we are, Jill. Halloween and decorating isn't all that big where I live. Shame as there are plenty of old haunted buildings around. The streets would look amazing Halloweened up. Do you know, it was never a thing when I was a kid. Never a thing at all. Halloween, trick-or-treating, decorating, any of that didn't really appear in our area till probably 25 years ago. It was never anything when I was a kid or a teenager or anything. So picture not great, but can hear you fine. Good. As long as you can hear me. Funny thing is, I have got some pictures to show you today. Typical, isn't it? Typical. I don't know how to make the picture better, I must admit. So I apologise for that. How is everyone? Are we all ready for sewing? My phone's not going to work. I think it has got a lot to do with the building work that's going on. I think the internet's a little bit temperamental. Oh yeah, I'm looking at myself on the phone now. I am a bit pixelated, aren't I? It's probably for the best, really. Probably best for that. Hopefully you'll be able to see the pictures I've got. Xenia says, Halloween decorate isn't the thing where I live either in Germany, but I have put up everything in my flat. Cool. Yeah, we've got to do our own thing, haven't we? We do live in terraced roads, so the kids love trick-or-treating because they just go door to door. It's brilliant for them. Jane says, still trying to clear out my witchy room of all my son's stuff. He moved out in May 2018. Thought it wouldn't take long. Oh, but being ex-military, he's packed everything so efficiently you can't get a pin between things. That's a bit like the room I'm in at the moment. You can't see, obviously, what I'm looking at, but there are boxes upon boxes upon boxes all jam-packed in. Rushing to get it done so I can strip my ancestors' altar and revamp it to look like a mini cemetery. Excellent. Yes, that's very true, Sue. Halloween is American. Punky Night. Yes, I've been reading and writing about that. I've been writing about folklore, and I did come across Punky Night. So I wanted to talk today. I don't have a theme, but I thought I would talk about our recent Kitchen Witch visit to Bath, to the Royal City of Bath, because it was quite enlightening. Hello there. One of Loki's. Halloween was a thing in Cornwall 40 years ago and more. Believe it is. Well, yes, it has got ancient traditions, obviously. Samhain has ancient traditions. The whole trick-or-treating thing is American, with all the sweets and dressing up and stuff. But it all has roots in Celtic roots. Oh, Anna says, my mum decorates the entire house up in the garden. Excellent. She really gets into the spirit for the trick-or-treaters, whereas I do my witch thing and then hide with horror movies from the 50s and 60s. Excellent. Oh, apparently I'm not pixelated, ML. Right, let me get my pictures up. Sue says maybe it's because she's cleaned her glasses. Yeah, it might be that they've moved the cement mixer off the cable or something. I don't know. One of Loki said, there are lots of traditions. There are lots of ancient traditions that date back to All Souls Night, All Hallows Eve. The actual whole sweets and trick-or-treating thing is American, but the roots of it are all very pagan. Xenia can recommend Ronald Hutton on History of Halloween and Samhain. Super insightful and interesting. There you go. He's always interesting. So let me get some pictures up of you to show you while I'm not pixelated. Sue says, did you catch your bug in Bath as they have the high? No, I didn't have COVID and I haven't got COVID. I've just got a boring bog standard cold and cough. Nothing dramatic, just the usual run of the mill cold and cough. And actual fact, when we went to Bath a month ago, the COVID numbers were quite low and everyone was really good. Everyone had masks on. Everyone was using the sanitizer. It was all very, very organised. So no, just a boring old cough and cold. Normal stuff. So I wanted to share with you, and I'm hoping I can get this. There we go. I have now got to get this to work. We went to Kitchen Witch, Posse and myself went to Bath. Beautiful, beautiful city of Bath. I've been there several times before with hubby, and it is one of my favourite cities. It is absolutely beautiful. The whole city is beautiful, and it's got such a fan. Seek out the goddess Sulis. It is an amazing place. If you do get to go to Bath, I highly recommend it. The whole town, the whole city, everything is lovely. They've got the usual run-of-the-mill shops and things, but they have lots of independents as well, and it's a nice mixture. They've got lots of cafes and restaurants as well, which is fab. And it's all on a beautiful river, which is very nice too. Beautiful, just a whole fantastic energy. And of course, it's got a lovely history to it. Right back, slap bang in the middle of the city is the Roma Baths. Right next to Bath Abbey, which is enormous, and right next to the baths. We walked up towards the Roman baths, and we came from behind the baths, and the energy hit Heather way before we'd even got anywhere near the baths. She just stopped in her tracks because she felt the energy of it. But she is our water priestess, so I'm not surprised. I'd been before, and I've been a few years ago, and I picked up the energy of Sulis when I went a few years ago, and she'd kind of been hanging about ever since, and poking and prodding me on occasion. We even held a Kitchen Witch open ritual to the goddess Sulis a few years ago as well. So she's been floating around for a while, but we really did feel the energy this time. This is a shot from, this is actually open to the elements. It used to have a roof on it originally, but this is all open to the elements. So the baths are based on a natural spring. The natural spring was obviously there long before the Romans, and people were worshipping the goddess Sulis. They guess hundreds of years before the Romans actually arrived. So she was a real force of nature in the area. And when the Romans arrived, they did what the Romans do and thought, oh, hot waters, oh, healing waters, oh, let's build a nice Roman baths over the top of it. Oh, there's this goddess Sulis, and all the natives seem to be worshipping her. Now, normally, the Romans would take a local goddess and just change the name completely and make them their own. I think they realised that Sulis was so powerful and so well recognised in the area that they actually just tagged the name Minerva onto the end of it. So the Romans called her Sulis Minerva. But she had a temple there that the Christians knocked down at some point. But a lot of the Roman baths are under the streets because, you know, time happens, things happen, people build over the top of it. So actually there's a huge amount of the excavations that are under the pavements and the surrounding streets. The abbey, which is right next door, is built over half of Sulis's temple. Her temple is underneath. And we actually had quite a weird experience with that, but I will come back to that. Let's just pick up on these. We'll come back to the Halloween bits in a minute. Sue, yes, because you live quite close to Bath, don't you? Yeah, we do, don't we? We do tend to take things for granted. Bath is absolutely my mum and special friend. Can highly recommend the Green Rocket Cafe. Rhiannon, we had breakfast there every day. We had breakfast in the Green Rocket Cafe every morning. Karen, beautiful. Not been. Yes, do. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Jane says, I'm making candles that colour green to go with my Gaia statue. It's not supposed to be green. You can't actually bathe in the waters, in those waters, because that's all algae and nasty things that will make you very sick. Caroline, love Bath, one of my favourite places. Yes, there was one of their posse, Sue, is vegan, so we did seek out a few vegan cafes. Jane, yes, Sulis, she is fascinating. She has become my goddess. I am dedicated in service to her now. Sue says they have just this week finished tapping the hot water into the abbey for heating. Well, that's rude. We actually felt that the abbey was quite an ominous presence over the top. That explains actually why Sulis is so angry with the abbey. That's just rude. Jane says, used to visit a friend who was at uni in Bath. Doesn't have. Yes, Bath there's quite a lot of hills to climb. Hi, Nikki. Yeah, Jane, don't eat the candles. Don't eat candles anyway. Jill says, Bath would have been amazing. Do you know it would have, but so much of it is done tastefully. There's so many building regulations. They can't put double glazing in. They can't use any stone other than the Bath stone. All of the buildings, even the new buildings, all tie in with it. It is beautiful. And quite a lot of the Roman baths do remain. Quite a lot of it is underground, but they are still working on it. There's still, even the stuff they had in the exhibition this time was more than there had been when we went a couple of years ago. So they're always still building on it. Jane says, yes, it is very Georgian. In fact, the apartment that we stayed in was in a big Georgian building. It was beautiful. So the Roman baths are fascinating. The water is warm, naturally warm. But the Romans built all their baths around it, and they had their cold pool and their hot pool and all the various things. And I'm now going to try and make the picture move to change it. She says, hopefully. See, I knew we wouldn't be able to do it. I've lost it completely now. Blame it on my cold. Because I want to show you something. Hello, dog. Dog's just come in. One of the most powerful experiences we had, there we go, was looking at this. And I'm hoping you can see that up on the screen now. Yes. One of the most powerful experiences we had was, in part of it, you can sit on some steps. The noise you can hear is Eric digging the carpet. You can sit on some steps and look up at this. This. No, that way. This. It is the front part of the Temple of Sulis. The picture here shows it where they've obviously only found pieces of the stonework, but they filled it in up on the wall with a image. So the image plays over the top of it and it fills in all the gaps. And you can sit on the steps in front of it and just look up at it. This would have been the top part of Sulis's temple. And I have to tell you that the energy was overwhelming. We all sat there for some considerable time in complete silence, completely overwhelmed by the energy that was coming from it. Now, the face in the middle, they thought originally was a gorgon. It's not. There are 2 snakes on it, but that's it. The rest is hair. They do think now that it's a Celtic Roman design. I think it's Belanus. Quite a few of the historians believe it to be Belanus as well. But it is a fascinating piece to look at, and the energy that comes from it is absolutely amazing. I had been working with Belanus for several years now, so to combine him with the energies of Sulis, I could have stayed there forever. I could have stayed there forever. Jane, yes, it is very, very cleverly constructed. Sue says the warm water does make your glasses steam up. Yes, when you go underground, you can go to the source of the water as you can watch it coming out, and it is very warm. It did make my glasses steam up too. Karen has had some lovely experiences of Sulis, learnt a lot from working with her. Like she's been around. Yes, and she is a force of nature. She is an absolute force of nature. Janet says, Sulis Minerva is mentioned in Priestess of Avalon. Not my favourite of the Avalon series, but a lovely introduction to the goddess Minerva. Now, you see, I think they are 2 separate goddesses. The Romans called Sulis Minerva to combine her with their goddess Minerva. For me, they are 2 separate goddesses. Sulis was around for hundreds of years before the Romans arrived, so she is a goddess in her own right. So I work with Sulis rather than Sulis Minerva, but each to their own. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a very, very powerful display. I don't know whether I can try and, yeah, here we go. There, it's a little bit close up now. The lights and the colours that are shining on it are their interpretation of how they believe it would have been painted. Let's shut the door now because we can hear the builders. It is a fascinating piece, and what I find quite interesting, there you go, there it is as the natural stone. There are only a few pieces of it that weren't broken, but this central piece, what they refer to as the Gorgon's head, or Belanus, stayed whole. That whole piece is intact. It didn't break, it didn't crack, it is whole. It's got a very, very solar energy to it. And it's got the whole Celtic vibe to it. So for me, it is definitely Belanus. To me, that's how it looks and how it feels. They sell replicas of that plaque in the shop. Obviously, I bought one because you have to, really, don't you? Unfortunately, it's packed away, but there you go. I will get to it. So that is Balanus, and that is the head of the Temple of Sulis. In fact, there we have a picture there. This is what they think it would have looked like. So that triangle top of the temple there is where Balanus' image would have been. And that would have been Sulis's temple with the pillars and the steps up to it. Some of the steps still remain. You can see those if you go underground and through their little display. There's an altar as well, a sacrificial altar. There's parts of all kinds of bits and pieces that they've dug up. It is fascinating, but the energy from it was amazing. It was so powerful. She was just there, totally there. There we go. That's the temple pediment. This was at the front of the Temple of Sulis Minerva and was supported by 4 massive columns. It looked down on visitors in the temple courtyard from a height of 15 meters. Its powerful imagery dominated the scene, and it really is powerful. That whole vibe and energy you get from it is overwhelming, actually. It is an overwhelming energy. I'm not going to take you through the whole guided tour of the Roman baths. Do go and have a look if you get the chance. It is a fascinating place. I focused mainly on things that were related to Sulis. There are lots of Roman gods honoured there, and the actual history of the place itself as Roman baths is fascinating. But the interesting thing about Sulis was in her area, they found curses, something like 130 curses, all made out to the goddess Sulis. They were lead or pewter, and you can see some of them in the picture there. They scribed on them, folded them up, and thrown them into the waters. Excuse me. Most of the curses, sorry, most of the curses were things like, Goddess Sulis, I ask you to curse so and so who stole my coat, or here's a list of people that I think have stolen my towel. Goddess Sulis, I ask you to curse them. So she was obviously a really powerful goddess that they called upon when things went wrong, or they wanted people to be taken to justice for things. So they actually got quite a lot of these curses that they pulled out. They've got on show. I found it fascinating. There were also lots of other offerings to the goddess. Interesting that so many of them were metal. But I guess because they've been there so long, anything that was wooden or natural probably would have decayed. All of the pewter and the metal things survived, obviously. But there were lots of different offerings made to the goddess Sulis. Plates, jewelry, cups, oil lamps. There's bracelets and pins. They've even found crystals that have obviously come from rings and things. Fascinating amount of stuff that they've got there. It is just a fascinating place. So if you do get the chance, do go. Now, this is one of the natural courses of the spring. You can see the colour of the stone has been affected by the water, but the water is actually clear. So it's not green like the outside one. It is warm in this part. This is underground. You can feel the heat from the water. You can feel the energy from the water. And in fact, Heather and I sat just to the left-hand side of this, and we could feel the floor moving. Now, let's bear in mind that the floor is solid stone. We could feel the floor vibrating. It was the most bizarre experience. I thought I was having a moment till I mentioned it to Heather, and she was feeling it too. So I knew I wasn't actually going mad. But the energy is just absolutely amazing. This is the part that made my glasses steam up. This is the natural spring, and the heat and the steam from it. It's just the energy. I cannot describe how amazing the energy was and how overwhelming the presence of Sulis was. It was really just something I've never felt before. Even in the 15 or so years I worked with the Kalak, I never felt her energy as strong as I felt Sulis on that visit. quite a random thing here, but it does connect to the ancient goddesses of Britain, which Sulis is. I also bought a replica of this. It's the Three Mothers, and you will find this kind of image throughout Celtic history, worshipping three mother goddesses. Interesting, I thought. Interesting to me, anyway. Let's catch up on your good morning, Trudy. Xenia, yes, it was beautiful and powerful. It is amazing. Xenia, yes, you will see quite often related to Sulis is that image of Balanos. Gorgon. The first one, Gorgon. It's snake-headed monster. Xenia wants a replica too. You can get them on Etsy, but the Roman bath shop is amazing. Yes, Sulis must have been incredibly busy. Absolutely, I think she was a very busy goddess. Definitely. Bath, or as the Romans called it, Aqua Sulis, was a very important city in the time of the Romans. It was only 100 miles away from London. It had the hot springs, so the Romans jumped on it, basically. There's not a huge amount known about the goddess Sulis. She is one of the ones that doesn't have a lot of information about her, because before the Romans, we didn't write anything down. Our ancestors didn't write stuff down. Sue has just watched some American program about the Gordon. Interesting. Can you recommend any books on Sulis Minerva? No. Because there aren't any. There really aren't any on. I actually, funnily enough, you're unsurprised to know that I have a contract to write one. So I've just signed a contract with Moon Books to write a book about Sulis. But let's bear in mind that Sulis and Sulis Minerva I keep as two separate goddesses. There are several books on the Roman baths, which are very good. If you do a search on a bookstore, Amazon, whatever, for the Roman baths, you will come up with quite a few books that have actually been written about the baths themselves from the archaeologist's point of view, and they do include a little bit of information about Sulis, but we don't actually know a huge amount about her because it wasn't written down. The things that we do know: her home was the ancient hot springs. Her name, Sulis, they believe means eye or gap, perhaps in reference to the spring, because the spring comes from a hole or a gap in the water. Perhaps because she was seen as a seeress, prophetess. Her name can also be translated as sun, so she's often looked upon as a solar deity, healing deity because of the hot springs. But I think we have to bring into that the fact that so many people called upon her for curses. I think she was a goddess of justice as well. The solar connection, they found numerous fires in and around her shrine within the bath's walls. The Romans obviously called her Sulis Minerva, so it's an amalgamation of Su, which is the goddess of healing, and their own deity Minerva, who was a goddess of wisdom. So there are the connections. I think she was a total power, force of nature. I think the Romans held the goddess in high esteem. I think they realized when they arrived that she'd been worshipped for so long, for so many people, that they couldn't just replace her. I think they realized that her power was immense. There were numerous bath buildings built by the Romans. There were altars. There's a reservoir for the hot springs. The waters over time have been used for healing, for regeneration, and for fertility. Women would come to help with childbearing. They would immerse in the baths, drink the waters, sleep in the shrine, hoping that the goddess Sulis would hear their requests. Offerings, as I said, have been made: money, jewels, coins, spindle wheels, and all kinds of things, amulets and all sorts have been found offered to her. As I say, she was there long before the Romans discovered her. Some say 10,000 years or more beforehand. We don't know. We honestly don't know. That's how long that we think that the healing waters have flowed. So, you assume that she's been there for that long as well. So healing because of the hot springs, but I think the important thing as well is the fact that she dealt with people who did wrongdoings. I call upon her for healing, but I also think she helps get things going. I think she is a goddess that takes control, gets things moving. I don't think she stands any nonsense. I wouldn't be with a goddess that was fluffy. So she is a kick butt type of goddess. But I think she does. I think she takes hold of stuff and gets it moving. No nonsense. Let's get this sorted. Let's get this done. I also think she covers self-care. And perhaps a bit of focus on self-care as well. I think she's the one that's given me the cold. I think she kicked my butt to tell me to stop and sit down. There are lots of temple stones. There's lots of statues and pieces of stone where people have made dedications to the goddess Sulis as well, all found within the area. The excavation, the exploration is ongoing with the Roman baths. It was first dug up and then it was covered and then it was dug up again. So there's, over time, they found a lot of stuff. Over time, a lot of stuff's been lost as well. It is one of those things. Sorry, get my voice is going now. Nikki says, is the water hot enough to cook in? It is apparently 46 degrees Celsius. So there you go. It's warm. Love the curses. Did you say? Yes. I remember reading one of the things that said, yes, he'd asked the goddess Sulis to curse whoever it was because they'd stolen his towel. But let's bear in mind, this is the Roman baths and you'll be naked. If someone steals your towel, you've not got anything to cover yourself with. Xenia, the three mothers, interesting. Yes, in Central Europe and Germany, we have several ancient matronae. Yes, they are same thing, all one and the same, but it comes from Celtic history and it covers right through Europe. The three mothers, the matronae, yes, they're all one and the same thing or one and the same idea. That it's three mother goddesses. Sulis sounds like a great goddess to work with for anyone who's a healer or a herbalist. Yes, absolutely. I think she's fascinating. She called me a few years ago just to sort of make herself known. But she's with me now and she is my goddess that I will be working with for the foreseeable future. She is an absolute force of nature. Definitely. Trudy is visiting Bath in December. Excellent. Do visit the Roman baths. They are absolutely fascinating. The river that runs along the side of Bath as well is amazing. Such a lovely energy as well. Karen says, seems to be making herself and energy known again in so many people's lives. Wondering if she's going to be a force in making us save the earth as she has come to me in with force. Yes. I think she's one of those goddesses like Ellen of the Ways that was lost but has come now making herself known. I've seen and heard so much about Sulis since I discovered her a few years ago. She really is bringing herself out into the public, into general knowledge, absolutely. And she is a power. She is an absolute power. The fact that she was there worshipped by the locals for so many years before the Romans arrived tells you how ancient she is and how powerful she is. And hello, dog. Janet says three mothers. No, three mothers, all the same age, all mother goddesses, all in that, not a triple goddess in that maiden mother crone form, but 3 mothers, as in all the same age and all mothers. It is quite a thing from Celtic history, and it is across Great Britain and across Europe. It is quite a thing. If anyone's interested in Sulis, in the 3 mothers, in ancient goddesses, Kitchen Witch will be running an online course starting in February next year that covers 12 of the ancient goddesses from ancient Britain. Sulis is included, as are the 3 mothers. The one in the UK that is most well known is the 3 mothers of Cirencester, because they found a plaque giving the image of 3 mothers in Cirencester. So it is a huge... It is covered across the whole of Europe, but 3 mothers rather than the 3 different ages. Jane says, your mission is to write a book on Sulis before Ronald does. Well, I've got a signed contract. Give me time. Going completely off topic, that's one of the things we do. My son has met someone who says she's a grey witch. Is this the thing? Yeah. Well, I'm a grey witch. I think the whole colour thing, white witches, black witches, grey witches, I think it's used to make other people that aren't pagan understand. The term white witch, I don't know many witches that actually call themselves white witch. I think the term is used to make people unscared of witchcraft. Grey witches, I think, are any witches that actually do what we do. There is black, there is white, there is dark, there is light. If you walk the line between the middle, I guess that makes you a grey witch. So yes, it is a thing, but it's not a bad thing. It's just someone that understands that you have to have the dark and the light to bring balance. So if I had to give myself a colour, I would call myself grey witch. Karen said yes. Yeah, it is up on our website, but it launches in February, Karen. But it is 12 months of working with 12 different ancient goddesses. We've got Sulis, we've got Senua, Coventina, Nematona, and the 3 mothers. Whole host of people. Actually, the book I'm writing at the moment is Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Britain. So I got to do that one first. Jane, we're grey witches because we're human. I'm chewing gum. But I think you are. If you work with the light and the dark, if you understand that there has to be that balance, then you are a grey witch. It's not a term I generally call myself, but if you had to give me a colour, yes, that's what I would be, a grey witch. So I highly recommend visiting Bath. It is a fascinating city, but we went there to discover Sulis. The interesting thing was, after we'd been to the Roman baths that day, the next day we went to the Abbey, which is right next door to the baths. In fact, when we were standing in the open part of the baths, the Abbey looms over the top of it. You can see it, and it does give quite an uncomfortable feeling. When we all went into we thought we'll go and look at the Abbey, because looking at old churches is always fascinating. This is a really grand Abbey. It is tall, it has all the stained glass windows, the floor and the walls are all covered with stone tablets engraved with people's names and what made Sue laugh, all the wording on it about the things that they'd done. All of us walked into the Abbey and we sort of split up and separated, and we wandered around doing our own thing. And when we met up, all 4 of us hated it. All 4 of us found the energy in the Abbey incredibly uncomfortable. It felt, well, all of us couldn't wait to get out of there. We all came to the conclusion that because the Abbey is over half of Sulis's temple, because the Abbey is so overbearing on the Roman baths, on Sulis's temple, that Sulis was unhappy. And we all felt it. We all felt that energy. So if you're interested in abbeys and old churches, it is beautiful. But if you are connected to Sulis or the goddess, you may find it a little bit uncomfortable. We really did. We really did. John says, try having my life, you'd have grey hair. John, I do have grey hair. It's just dyed. I just covered it up. Jane, we need to know about the dark stuff so we can see it coming and deal with it. It's knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge is power. In Kitchen Witch, we teach about curses and hexes and bindings. Doesn't mean we do them, but we know about them because knowledge is power. You have to have an understanding of the dark to appreciate the light, and you have to have an understanding of the light to appreciate the dark. I don't think anyone could live in a world that was all light or all dark. It would be a very unbalanced world. I think it's because I'd never heard of it. I'd heard of one. There is a grey witch's grimoire. I think Moonbooks has a grey witch's grimoire. It's not a term used very often, but it is a thing. It is about walking that path in between. It's about walking the path between white and dark. But you'll probably find that most of us do it and are grey. We just don't use the term. Vanessa has been described as a greeny grey witch. Well, apparently we need colours. Diane, usually okay with the energy of small churches, but I often have to leave the large cathedrals. It was, I love old churches, but the energy was very, very oppressive. It was, it felt like money. It felt like they were there for the money. And I hope I don't do them any disrespect. And I have no wish to disrespect the church or the cathedral itself. But it was an uncomfortable energy. And I think because we'd had such a strong connection with Sulis beforehand, that we really felt it. We really felt it. But yes, highly, highly recommend Bath. It is a beautiful city. I bought back a whole load of goodies. The Roman Bath shop is fantastic. They don't sell online, unfortunately. You have to go to the shop. But I bought the Balanas plaque. I bought a Three Mothers plaque. You can buy the water. Pre-COVID, when I visited Roman baths before, you could actually, they pipe fresh water, not the green stuff, but they actually go to the source and pipe the fresh water out so that you could drink some of it. It is warm and it tastes bizarre because it's got all different minerals in it. Unfortunately, with the COVID situation, we couldn't do that this time, but we bought bottles of water. You can buy them in the shop. I bought a chalice. I bought some coins. They have replica coins, like the ones that were thrown in the water as offerings. So I bought some of the replica coins because I thought they would make really nice offerings to Sulis. So I have a huge amount of stuff now to create a Sulis and Balanos altar. I had one before the renovations. I packed it all away, but I've got a lot of stuff now, which I'm going to build her a proper altar. Unfortunately, with the house renovations, I have no altars. I had one in the garden. I had 2 in the dining room. I had 1 in the kitchen, and I had 3 in my witchy room here. They've all been packed away because of the house renovations. It's a very strange feeling not to have an altar. It's a very strange feeling not to have that place as a focus or to have that, connection. In actual fact, this morning before I started, I looked for my bag of stuff because all the things I bought from the Roman Bath shop I kept packed in the bag because they were all wrapped up nicely, and I can't find them. I'm looking around the room thinking they're in here somewhere because I was going to show you, but I can't find them. I think what I'll have to do once the renovations are all finished, I'll do a live and I'll actually set up my Sulis Balanas altar live online, and then you can see all the goodies and see how I put an altar together. But it is very, very strange not having that focus. The only thing that I have access to my crystals. They are there. I have to move all those boxes out of the way. Everything else is packed away. All of my altar stuff is behind masses of boxes. All of the herbs and things are behind all this lot. But there's nowhere to do anything. There's nowhere to put anything. So it's a very, very strange feeling. Jane says, Grey is a military term as well. Okay, my son Ciel told him he was the greyest grey man he'd ever known. In the Dark Ages, we had to be grey to avoid drawing attention to ourselves. Oh, okay, it's the same in combat situations. Okay, so kind of blending in. Interesting. Xenia, if one thinks about the Kabbalah, there are creating and destroying energies in the universe, not good or evil. They should be in balance. Yes, I think for me, one of the underlying themes of everything is to find balance, whether it's in your life, home life, work life, spiritual life, is about, for me, finding balance. So I think the understanding the light and the dark to make the grey in between is about balance. It's definitely about balance. Do I have a pocket or travel altar? I've got various bits and pieces, but it all got packed away and I kind of didn't think about it. I do have a most amazing wall hanging that came just as the renovation started from the lovely Naomi. And it is of Sulis, and it is so powerful and so amazing. I commissioned it from her and she did an amazing job. That is hanging behind my desk, my proper desk in the other room. So I have that, and that at the moment is my focus. Other than that, I don't even have the garden, because the garden has got building works going on it. It is literally, the whole house is a building site. Apart from our living room, but our living room has never been witchy. It looks like Sherlock Holmes's study, actually. It's got that kind of vibe to it. It's got a couple of Terry Pratchett pictures in it, which I guess you could say are witchy. For those Discworld aficionados, I have Granny's cottage framed, which has got Granny asleep doing her borrowing. It's got Nanny Og drinking and Margaret flying on her broomstick. And then I've got a beautiful little picture of Tiffany dancing with the bees. But that's probably the closest to anything witchy that's in our living room. It's a family space, so I've kind of left it more comfortable for everyone. The witchy room is one I'm sitting in, but it is full from floor to ceiling with boxes and a makeshift kitchen. So it is about making do at the moment. Even the garden where I would normally go to connect is all full of, concrete mixers, things like that. It's a very interesting experience. I'm taking it that it is a bit of a challenge to have come back from Bath so full of the Sulis energy and Sulis connection, and having dedicated myself to her, to be in her service, to then not have anything physical to work with, to start that journey off with her, or continue that journey, I should say, because I've been working with her for a few years. I think it's a challenge. I think it's a personal challenge for me to be working without any of those material things that we're used to, without having that focus. It's interesting. It's interesting. Good morning, Christine. Nikki says, gosh, there's not a lot. No, I think everyone's always seeking it, isn't it? It is one of those things that we're always looking for. And it isn't always easy to obtain. Jane says, too many individuals wanting all the power for themselves, when it would be so much more powerful if they could only share it. Do you know, I think that's a historic thing, though, isn't it? That's not just now. I think that's always over time. You have to have, in any situation, I think, you have to have someone in charge. If everyone's all on the same level, nothing gets done. You have to have someone that steers the ship. There has to be someone that makes that final decision. There has to be someone that listens to everybody else, takes it all on board, and makes it happen. So I think there definitely has to be that kind of hierarchy, for want of a better word. It's not the best word. So I think there has to be someone steering the ship. And there always has to be, I think we undervalue people, don't we? Everyone is always saying, do your best, work your hardest. You want to be a this, you want to be a that, you want to be a CEO, whatever. You have to have those level of people that empty the bins and, clear the sewers. Everyone fits into a whole jigsaw to make everything happen, to make the world happen. But everyone should be valued the same. Absolutely should be valued the same. Everyone has their place in life that supports each other. But yeah, it is. I think there are always going to be people that want all of the power for themselves. There are always going to be people that want to step on top of everyone else. I think that's historic. Look at our history. Look at the world history. There's always going to be someone that wants to take complete control and complete power. It's a shame. If we could live like Gene Roddenberry's view, the Star Trek universe. But even then, there was always different races that wanted to take control and take power. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It is one of those things. Yes, Jane says, if people who cleared the sewers went on strike, they'd have a huge amount of power, wouldn't they? This is it. This is always, there always has to be slots for everyone to fit into. Everyone has their place, and no one is more valuable than anybody else. You could have all these people in power, but it's no good if there's no one to grow the crops to feed them or empty the bins. There's a whole, everyone has their place in the world. Everyone has their place bringing things together, but everyone has equal value. No one is more important than anyone else. Just saying. John says, I'd agree you need a committee of one if you have to get something done. Otherwise, it turns into a talking shop and the can gets sticky. Yes, it does. Yeah, coming from someone who is a bossy control freak, you do have to have someone to steer the ship. You do. But I think it can be very lonely and very... you can just run yourself into the ground if you try and do everything on your own. It is very, very fabulous to have a team of people with you, walking beside you, helping you, but someone ultimately has to steer it. It seems people who do the most menial tasks have the most power to hold the world to ransom. You're probably right there, Jane. You are probably right. So it's been, I thought this morning, it's been a month now since we came back from Bath. And it was really, really fantastic experience. Even having been there several times before, it still remains one of my favourite places to go. But I brought Sulis back with me, if that makes sense. She had been floating about, but she's definitely calling the shots at the moment. But her energy there is amazing. It's just a shame that we don't know that much about her, but that goes for the whole of all of the ancient British goddesses, because we didn't write stuff down. An awful lot of the ancient British goddesses that we know about are because Ptolemy wrote it down. The Roman wrote it down because he'd found an inscription somewhere or some group had mentioned. So even that, what we know, comes from the Romans. We have found various inscriptions and bits and pieces. It's a bit like Andraste, Andred. We know about her because Boudica called on her before she went into battle. But that's pretty much it. That's all we know about this, what we now kind of picture as a battle goddess, Andraste, or Andred, as her original name was. It's fascinating. I have been delving into all of the tribes of ancient Britain for writing my book. Emma says, I wasn't able to practice my spiritual path for 2 years. My altar was there, but I wasn't able to use it. As a result, I felt disconnected. Yes, a focus point is so important. It's interesting, isn't it? The thing that I thought about yesterday, quite often when people come to me and say, I've lost my connection or I've lost my focus, the first thing that I will say to them is, clear your altar. Clear it, cleanse it, clean it, and redress it. That would be my very first step to make your connection again. But I don't have one at the moment. So it's quite interesting. It's a bit of a challenge. I'm using the Sulis wall hanging that I have from Naomi as my focal point. It's kind of my hanging altar, if you like. That is my focal point for my daily devotions. Everything else has to really go on in my head. It all has to be done with visualization. So it is interesting. Jane says, if the Romans took the trouble to add Minerva to Sulis's name, they must have written about her. Yeah, I mean, all the books that I've read on the Roman bards, they do mention all of the finds. So there are quite a lot of inscriptions on stone altars almost. There was quite a lot of mentions to the goddess Sulis in the Roman baths finds. They're all inscribed on stone, but they tend, or they seem to be, from Roman military that are honouring her. So it's a bit like saying, hail goddess Sulis from Legionnaire. So, you know, I can't help, whenever I'm doing the research for this, I can't help thinking about Asterix the Gaul. So all of the names, you know, Caligulus, Getafix. So the inscriptions tend to be these stone pillars, and they are just Roman soldiers honouring her. And then you've got the curses. So there's 130 of those curse tablets, pewter curse tablets, all written to the goddess Sulis. So there's a lot of finds, archaeological finds, but they tend to seem to be curse tablets, offerings, and honourings, really. It is interesting. It is interesting. So Rachel miniature altar, a virtual one. Virtual one's interesting, isn't it? I like that idea, Nikki. Could use Pinterest or something, couldn't I, and make a virtual one. As I say, I am working with the image of Sulis. I'm working with the hanging of Sulis. She is my focal point. And it seems to be working. It does seem to be working. Diane says, you've just mentioned daily devotions. What kind of things do you do daily? In the pre-renovation days, when I had an altar, I would light a candle. I would make an offering, sometimes water. I've got a big dish, and I would pour water, sacred water, quite often from the chalice well, into it, or put herbs and spices in if I was working on a particular intent. But for just a daily good morning, goddess, here I am, I would light a candle for a couple of minutes and just sit quietly. That was one of my daily devotions. Another one is to connect with the energy of the day. I do that every single day, and actually I still do that now. First thing I do in the morning once I'm showered and dressed is I take the dog out into the garden. So that's my connection. I'll open the door to the garden, which actually is a building site at the moment. It is full of cement and mud, but the energy is still there. So the first thing I do is connect with the energy of the day, connect with the energy of the land that I stand on, that my house is on, and connect with the energy of the day. It only takes a few seconds. You just breathe in the energy. Sometimes I'll get a word, sometimes I'll get an idea, sometimes I'll get a thought of what I need to work with today. Other times it's just making that connection to Mother Earth, to the energy of the land, to my ancestors. So going out into the garden and making connection with the energy of the day is one of my daily devotions. And when I have an altar, I like to light a candle just for a couple of minutes. And even if I don't light a candle, just standing in front of the altar and connecting with the goddess, the god, whoever I might be working with, my animal spirit guide. Just that couple of minutes first thing in the morning to make that connection. At the moment, my daily devotions are a bit flipped around. I still do my morning one where I go out to the garden and connect with the energy of the day. But my focus with Sulis tends to be in the evening. When I go to bed, I can see her wall hanging. So I will sit and make a connection with that wall hanging and make a connection with Sulis. Just small things. Daily devotions don't have to be enormous, huge actions. Jane says there'll be a scroll or two hidden away somewhere. One day someone turned out, well, there are still huge amounts that haven't been excavated because the Roman baths and the original temple is all under the ground. There are now pavements and shops and buildings all around it. So there's a lot of it that they can't actually excavate because of all the surrounding areas. So you never know. John, so how about it's a good journey? Born in okay. Catuvellani area. The family tree suggests we moved here. Tracy's more fixed to either Siganti or Briganti's tribal area. I am at Trebates, where I am here. It is fascinating, absolutely fascinating, looking at the ancient tribes of Britain. They can help us work out who the ancient goddesses were. In Britain, in ancient Britain in particular, there seems to be quite a lot of water goddesses. I think the connection is that rivers, seas, lakes, they provided life. They provided food for living, they provided water for drinking and water for bathing in. But they also took life. You get a big, strong river or the ocean or a very deep lake, and it can take life. So I think our ancestors in Britain would have worshipped those bodies of water, and that worship would have turned into the spirit of the water, which would have turned into a goddess. And I think that happens a lot in Britain in particular, where the goddesses came out of nature itself or natural formations. And I think finding out about the ancient tribes, where you live and what your ancient tribe was, will help us connect to whatever goddess was worked with. It is fascinating. Karen says in Manchester it's the rain. Yeah, it's Britain generally, isn't it? we do have a lot of rain. So yes, I am writing several books at the moment. I'm editing final edits for a book for Llewellyn about working with the months and the seasons and the Sabbats and the general energies based on the folklore in your area. That's on the final edit at the moment. Triple Goddess book, Pagan Portal's Triple Goddess book from Moon Books, comes out next month. There is an online talk about the Triple Goddess and a book giveaway. Details are on my Facebook page on my site. There's another book coming out in February, which is Beneath the Moon, which is a big old book, reference book about working with moon magic. But I am writing currently Pagan Portals, Ancient Gods and Goddesses of Britain, and Pagan Portals Sulis for Moon Books. And it is a very personal, fascinating journey. It is taking me on a different pathway, my own pathway. And it is fascinating. And I'm loving every minute of it. So I'm very pleased my voice has lasted. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Do join us as well. Saturday the 30th of October for the Kitchen Witch live Samhain ritual. That's over on the Kitchen Witch Facebook group and on my YouTube channel, 7 p.m. UK time. And as I say, do join me in November for my Triple Goddess talk. It was a hard book to write. There's quite a lot of personal stuff in there. But it is dealing with the Triple Goddess from a modern perspective. I have hopefully honoured her and given a way of working with the Triple Goddess today by anybody and everyone. So that comes out in November as well. John says, if you can see the Pennines, it's going to rain. If you can't, it's raining. Excellent. Raining in Hamburg too. Jane, is your pendant a bottle? Actually, it is a Bath glass. My husband bought it for me several years ago in Bath. It is unique to Bath. They hand make the glass there. It is sparkly. It's a heart. Bath glass. That's my nod to Sulis at the moment. Thank you, as always, everyone. If you'd like me to talk about anything in particular in the future, do drop me a line. Happy to talk about any subject, as long as I know about it. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and have a fabulous weekend and a good week. And I will see you all again next week. Take care, everyone.